Hey guys, welcome back to Jersey First TV and the Nader narrative. We need to talk about Governor Murphy. I don't really want to, but we need to because he just did his state of the state. And listen, it impacts you. You've got to understand we have 2 more years with this guy, what's going on. So to break it all down, to help you understand, for those of you who didn't watch the show or did watch the show and just really need to be able to filter through everything he said, we've got, of course, Rosemary Becchi with us from Jersey First, and new Assemblyman, we'll talk about that in a minute, Paul Kanitra, who I recently learned is not Kanitra, it's Kanitra, but
it's whatever you want.
Either one, but I'm going to be unique. We're going to go with Kanitra. But anyway, let me brag on both of you before we start to talk about Murphy, who I won't be bragging on. So Rosemary, first of all, congratulations on a great year with Jersey First advocacy organization. And now you've got the backing of Americans for Prosperity, AFP. You've got big news coming up this year. You're really making an impact in New Jersey, advocating for people, finding the issues that impact them and standing up for them. So I just want to first congratulate you on that. I'm proud to know you and thank you. You continue to fight. Of course, we know you're a tax attorney. You're famous for the 529 plans, which I like to bring up since they're well used in this household of 4 children. But you've got, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the money side of things and affordability. And Paul, congratulations.
Thank you.
Newly minted and shiny Assemblyman, right?
I'm in my office. I'm in my office right now, actually. I'm sure it's to totally mess up everything, but I'm just going to show you. So behind me, it looks like it's all put together, right?
Yeah.
But if you look, we go into my office. I mean, it's just a total,
oh my gosh,
total disaster in there.
So, we need some help. We need a decorator. We need somebody who can hang pictures, but you'll get moved in eventually.
Yeah, we're working on it.
But listen, you did an amazing job as mayor. And that's really what, a lot of New Jersey looks at you and sees such a successful mayor who fought for your town, and what a great town, right? Point Pleasant. But listen, you're more than that. And I got to admit, I didn't know about your lobby firm.
All right.
Okay, so I learned something today. Lobby It. Very cool, very interesting. And so you're a small business owner as well, but you understand government. So man, what a powerhouse for us to have in the assembly. So welcome to your new position. Of course, you get to be at State of State right away and listen to our governor talk about all he's achieved. So let's play a little video. I want to just pull down something from the media. Let's look through how they looked at it, some highlights, and then we're going to discuss.
In what was his penultimate State of the State address, Governor Phil Murphy touted his administration's progress in making New Jersey a better place to live for all, most notably making New Jersey more affordable for all.
Are we allowed
in his
to boo during
2024
this?
State of the State address, Governor Phil Murphy focused his lens straight at the Garden State's middle class, touting his administration's work in creating a more affordable New Jersey in the midst of tough economic times.
And in the face of these challenges, building a stronger, fairer, more resilient, and more inclusive New Jersey has never been more necessary.
He says since he took office, New Jersey has created 200,000 new jobs, enacted 20 new tax cuts for middle-class families and seniors, most notably the $2 billion anchor property tax relief program, and raised the minimum wage to $15.13 an hour.
But we need to keep moving forward because making life more affordable for more families is our highest priority. We need to recognize that financial security is a challenge in every facet of life.
Murphy also announced what he calls an AI moonshot, calling on the state's top minds to pioneer breakthroughs in generative AI in the next decade.
The future of generative AI has yet to be written, and New Jersey can be the author.
Meanwhile, in the GOP response to the address, Republicans advocated for spending restraints and increasing government transparency.
He's talking about AI, and we can't even get unemployment checks out of the Labor Department when people are unemployed, which, by the way, unemployment is on the rise in New Jersey.
Governor Murphy also taking time in his address to honor the late Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver with a moment of silence. As for what's next for Murphy here in Trenton, his state budget address is expected in the coming weeks.
Okay, well, we'll be doing a show on that, definitely. All right, so a lot to unpack there, Paul. I'm sure it was hard to sit still listening to all this, but I'm going to start, Rosemary, with you, because I guess I have to say, as someone who's lived here for 21 years, I'm shocked that he would claim affordability gains, that he's winning in the affordability area in New Jersey. I look around me, I talk to people, I've yet to find someone who would agree. What is he talking about?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the state continues to get worse and worse and become more unaffordable. I mean, and you see it in every town. I mean, people are, the minute the kids are done school, the for sale sign goes up and they are out of New Jersey. People aren't staying. It's completely, we've got the highest taxes in the nation on all levels. I mean, income tax, business taxes, property taxes, sales tax. I mean, we're consistently rated the worst. And I'm just shocked that he would claim any kind of victory on affordability, because it just keeps getting worse and worse in the state. And this is an incredible place. I keep telling everybody, like, I have loved raising my children here and I want to stay here. I want to grow old here. But to be honest, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of economic sense to do that. And that's just so sad that we're at this place in this state.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? And Paul, coming from the town that you are in, the beautiful area, I mean, it's one of the jewels of the state. As you sat there and heard him sort of tout and pat himself on the back for affordability, how did you not start twitching? I mean, this just shocks me.
Well, I did, right? And it was my first state of the state address, right? So you get pushed in there and then you're like, okay, how am I supposed to behave? How am I supposed to act? When am I supposed to stand? When am I supposed to clap and sit? And then I had my wife there as well, right? And she obviously has her viewpoints on how the state is going. In fact, at one point, when he was talking about his AI moonshot proposal, she leans over to me and says, "This is how every bad post-apocalyptic zombie movie starts, is with video of the guy talking about, we're going to really fix AI." And I started laughing. I was like, "Oh my God, they're going to hear me." Yeah. But when he was talking about all his various different initiatives, there were a couple times where I almost huffed, and I had to control myself. You have a little speak button at your desk in the assembly, and I know mine wasn't working during this, but I wanted to push it so freaking badly, because when he was talking, it was indicative of his entire term as governor. It's all these broad ideals that someday he'll try and bring to the table when he runs for president, or he'll try and put on some list to talk at some wine hour at his house 10 years from now about how great he was. And all these ideals are costing the average New Jersey resident a tremendous amount of money. And here's the most important component. Here's the thing, we can all sit here, we're all politicos, and we're going to talk about, all the nuance of this. When Chris Christie left office, the state budget in 236 years of New Jersey being a state, was $34.7 billion. So in 236 years, we grew the budget to $34.7 billion. In the 5 years since Murphy has been in office, the damn thing has gone up another 60%. It's like $54 billion right now. Like, that's real money. If you're sitting here and you're looking at this and you don't care about politics, you hate politicians or whatever, how can you not be staggered by these numbers? And it's even highlighted more because we're already dealing with Biden and all this crazy inflation. Right. But in New Jersey, inflation is 25% worse than it is across the rest of the damn country, and it's costing the average household $11,000 more a year because of all these stupid decisions. But anyway, I love my soapbox, but that's what's driving me nuts.
Well, numbers don't lie. Those are shocking statistics. Right. Everyone needs to hear. And, as you said to me yesterday when we were talking, spend with no sense of the real impact, and not even caring, not even saying what projecting out. Rosemary, one of the areas that he's touting to is a minimum wage. And as a small business owner and a pro-business advocate, I just wince at that, this continued focus on the minimum wage and just zero understanding of how that really has this sort of pebble in the water impact on everything. What's with this minimum wage fascination?
I don't know. Our businesses in the state are not a piggy bank. And somehow our governor treats them like a piggy bank. I mean, these businesses are trying to survive. They're trying to, provide for their employees, provide wage increases, benefits, things like that. And when you constantly are raising, the requirements and the restrictions and more regulation on them, you're confining them, and frankly, you're just going to drive them out of the state to go to places where they don't have those kind of constraints. I mean, how are our small businesses going to deal with a mandatory minimum wage that is higher than the rest of the nation? Like, you just can't. You can't compete. And more businesses are going to leave the state. I mean, that's just inevitable. And I don't know where we don't look around the country and see that when you lower taxes and you lower spending and you provide more freedom to our businesses and less regulation, that they prosper. And in most instances, they're doing the right thing and they're putting all those monies back into the business, paying higher wages, paying bigger benefits, things like that. I mean, that's just how the world works.
Yeah.
And you again look around the country, look where there's been governors that have had, that motto and done those things. And that's where those areas are prospering. And frankly, that's where businesses are being driven to and people are moving to.
Yeah, well, good old capitalism has a way of making this all work if you don't constrict and restrain and legislate it too much. Paul, when we think about your town, Point Pleasant Beach, and the influx of college and high school students in the summer and those jobs that they have that are not meant to sustain a family, they're meant to be summer jobs, they're meant to be college jobs. Raising the minimum wage, and I think of all those small businesses, seasonal businesses, how painful is that for them?
Oh, incredibly so. And I want to backtrack for just 1 second because Rosemary touched on moving and people moving in and out of the state. And that was one of the components of the governor's speech. And when I heard it, I was rolling my eyes so heavily I thought I was going to pass out because he selectively chose facts saying that all these people are moving here from New York and it's the biggest migration, everything along those lines. New Jersey had a net loss of 25,000 people last year. So, and so now you're getting into the jobs in my town and you're looking at minimum wage jobs. And the reality of the situation is I have a ton of empathy for the working class, for people who are just trying to make $1 and everything along those lines. And I understand on the surface how you can say this is just the most direct thing. You just raise minimum wage, just keep raising minimum wage until you get them to a point where they can have some security. And I get where people are coming from when they're struggling. But the reality of the situation is we wouldn't need to raise the minimum wage if they weren't making all of these stupid decisions in the first place. And that's where the average person who's struggling to put food on the table doesn't have the time to look at, Governor Murphy's getting a standing ovation for his clean energy and his windmill project. How many billions of dollars did they redirect that were meant for the average person and ratepayers to lower their utility bills, and they steered them in a corporate buyout to Orsted? That would have affected minimum wage, and your buying power would have been more. And the state's basically a sanctuary state right now. How much are we artificially keeping wages down by our reliance on cheap illegal immigrant labor?
Yeah. Right.
You're bringing that in. Our appetite for that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And artificially keeping costs down. just wages, just based on capitalism, would raise higher if we
That's
were
right.
doing that. So sorry, again, on my soapbox, but there's
No.
so much to get on it about.
I'm glad that you have righteous anger. That's what we need. Let's stay in the businesses for a second. Rosemary, the governor allowed the business surtax to sunset. Now, the reality is that surtax funded a portion of the New Jersey transit budget, which is always an issue. So is he coming back for it? I mean, they're always looking in different people's pockets to try to fill some other spending somewhere else. So is this sunset real, or how is he going to fill that gap?
I certainly hope that the surtax is not coming back. That would be a colossal mistake. And again, I'll get back on my soapbox. We need to cut spending, and we need to cut taxes and keep taxes lower, and show, we've got to cut out wasteful spending programs and put the money that's needed into our transit system into it. And bringing back the surtax is not going to solve our problems. And again, it goes back to what Paul said earlier. It is crazy how much our state budget has grown over the past 5 years. And there is so much wasteful spending in there, and there's so much that can be done to drive things down, and again, to fund what we need to fund, right? And not raise taxes on our businesses. Because again, we're just going to drive those larger businesses out. And that tax really hits, small businesses and individuals, because it flows through to smaller businesses and stuff. So,
and a lot of I mean, a lot of those small businesses, sorry to interrupt you, but they didn't get the kind of support they needed from COVID. I mean, we want to pretend like this COVID thing is over. We lost a third of our small businesses, never to come back. Paul, I'm sure many of those were in your town. Where was their relief? Where was their help? Was there any recognition with all those COVID dollars that, hey, maybe we should prop up the small businesses we just literally crushed? Very frustrating, Paul, isn't it?
It's incredibly frustrating. And, my district, the 10th district, stretches from Spring Lake in the north all the way down the coast to Toms River, Seaside Park, South Toms River in the south. So it's kind of what most people think of as the Jersey Shore. And being seasonal businesses, they did get absolutely hammered. So now what is the state doing to help them out, to recognize how much people are hurting? Well, they want to jam wind turbines 12 miles off the coast and drive tourism down 15%, and kill our shellfish, our clamming, our fishing industries, and give them another wallop, right? It's just, and they view it all in a very elitist way as like they know what's best for the peasants. And there has to be collateral damage, and that's the way they steamroll through everything. Whether it's a whale that's getting destroyed, or whether it's a person, and a small business owner, they view it all as expendable, and the average working class person is not expendable.
Absolutely, and that gulf is getting wider and wider. One of those sort of elitist ideals, Rosemary, is the banning of gas cars. And, you've been vocal about this. I mean, it's one of those, Paul said earlier, sort of all these initiatives he's going to put in place, and then he's going to be long gone chasing whatever next dream of power he has while we sort of deal with these things that are totally upending life. So there's so many of them. Let's talk about the gas car situation. He is determined to ban gas cars. I mean, sounds like life is going to change as you know it. Wow. Where is this coming from?
It's again, it's very elitist, right? Yeah. You're assuming that people have money in their pocket to go buy an electric vehicle. Electric vehicles, last time I looked, are extraordinarily expensive, right? In most instances, I think studies show that it's the third car people are buying, right, not the car they rely on every single day. And it's just, it's so preposterous to think. I start with that very basic fact. Who's going to be able to afford this? Who's going to go buy these cars, these electric cars, let alone be able to charge them and what it does, you know, to our electrical grid and all those things. And it's just, it's crazy.
Let's
no
look common sense. Go ahead, Paul.
Just let's look at how this is going to happen, because I'm going to predict this right now, okay? And God willing, we'll all still be here in 10 years. And I want you to pull this video up that I said this, okay?
Okay.
Because just going to be just like the offshore wind thing and the overall search for clean energy. They're trying to force something that the market isn't ready for yet.
Yeah.
And what does that mean at the end of the day? That means that because of this, they're going to have to offer massive subsidies on these vehicles, which Rosemary was saying how expensive they are. And the taxpayers are going to be paying for probably cars that they can't even afford. You know, upper middle class people will be buying, you know, electric vehicles and Teslas with these subsidies. And the lower class people are going to be the ones getting screwed on the whole situation. You're going to see massive subsidies at the end of these 10 years to try and get to whatever goal they forced in this box.
So that is the hidden ugly truth that they don't talk about. And I want to stick with let's go back to the wind farms too, because there are a lot of hidden ugly truths there. Now, Paul, you fought the good fight on that for your town, for the shore. Rosemary, you were right there fighting it from the point of advocacy across the state and really getting people educated. So, Paul, you know, there are small battles and then there's the entire war, right? So a small battle, I'm going to say small because they're not giving up, was one when we got Ørsted to cancel their project. But what do you feel that New Jerseyans need to understand about this ongoing determination of them to focus on this wind farm scenario?
You always just have to follow the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
When there are billions and billions of dollars that have already been expended here to buy the leases from the federal government, to start building wind ports, to start digging for cables, for all the political donations and all the government relations efforts as well, it's not going to go away that easy. And just as we were celebrating the victory of the Ørsted project, the government went out and leased more areas off of Long Branch now, 12 miles off of Long Branch. And so, you know, we already see that the projects are not economically viable on their own. Again, subsidies. They only are viable, these companies, when they're getting massive monies from the people that they're then going to charge for the energy anyway. And it's a debacle. But again, people need to care enough to show the hell up, too.
Yeah.
Only 30% of people voted in this last election. So if you're sitting there and you're watching this video and you were pissed off about the windmills, or you like the nice, pristine view of your ocean, and you didn't show up to vote last election, you're part of the problem. And you got to wake up and you got to start coming out, because that's how egregious what's going on is. And we got to fix that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that could just be the show vote. I mean, I just feel like that's what everyone just doesn't understand. Rosemary, when, you know, you've been in politics a long time, you've been on Capitol Hill a long time. There are certain things we expect from the different parties. When did the almighty dollar obliterate the left's supposed care for the environment? I mean, we've got such an impact. It's unbelievable to me that the whales we used to fight for, they're now just no problem, kill them. It's the almighty dollar, as Paul says.
No, I agree, and it is very much a problem, and in particular in this instance. And I can't echo Paul enough. I mean, this is just going to be subsidy after subsidy, which means more tax dollars spent, which also means that ultimately, even if this is all up and running, I mean, there's going to be, you know, what it's going to cost the taxpayers from what they're spending now to what they're going to get charged in the future. It's endless. And just go back to, we need people to show up, pay attention, and vote. I was really struck when we did our event down in Paulstown, and some of the folks, the biggest advocates out there, you know, how they kind of came to discover what was going on. You know, one gentleman talked about, like, he read that it was 100 miles off the coast, and then every time he picked up the paper, it got closer and closer.
Oh my God.
And you know, he's like, hey, wait a minute, whoa, stop here. And I think that's important. It just tells me the message that we just got to keep people need to be informed, and we need to do. I feel like it's part of our job at Jersey First to keep them informed. What's really going on here? What are you not being told?
Right.
And that is so critical, because we need people to be informed, and then we need them to go out and vote.
Yep. And truth is really hard to find nowadays, isn't it? I mean, this is what we have to stand on, the truth. And, you know, Paul, you knew what you were getting into, right? I mean, you knew what you were getting into in Trenton. So you're there now. We've got all these boondoggles, but obviously we're excited that you're a voice of common sense. What are your goals in your first year?
Literally, you just laid them out. It's common sense.
Yeah.
I think because so few people turned out to vote, I think it shows how little people know or how little people care about what's going on in state government. You know, people see a presidential election and they turn out to vote, but they don't recognize that the decisions they make in the intervening other 3 years are the ones that determine what the president is going to be able to do or not do, and how much the governor and the state legislator are a factor in that and affect what's happening at a local level. So I've got a video that I'm going to launch in a couple of days called "What is an Assemblyman?" And you know, it's a little sarcastic, like I am, a little passive aggressive.
Yeah.
But that's kind of going to be my approach. I've got some shtick that I've been working on in terms of, you know, how can Democrats waste your money this month, and you know, what the crazy Democrat bill of the week is going to be. And
I love it.
I wanna dig into this stuff. I'm lucky that I'm enough of a policy nerd and still came from enough of a blue collar background where I think I can make things approachable. And that's my overall goal, is to make things approachable, easily digestible for people, and highlight all the hypocrisy that's going on out there in Trenton. And if we can do that, it'll be a job well done.
Yeah, and communicating, you know, as you're talking about this video, what is an assemblyman? You know, you're too young now. We're going to definitely be showing our ages here. But Rosemary, remember how a bill becomes a law?
Oh,
we're all the same age. I saw that. Yeah, the guy sits on the steps of the Capitol.
I feel like you need to operate in that mode. I mean, all of us remember it. It educated us, but really you got to get back to the basics.
Yeah.
What does an assemblyman do? How does a bill become a law? You know what, Paul? This might be an opportunity right there for you to bring.
You don't want to hear my singing voice, though.
Okay, well, we'll get someone to sing. But I'm liking this approach. Okay, so great. So you're going to be revealing their plans. You're going to be communicating, educating people. Rosemary, Jersey First is doing that too. I think one thing I hear from people a lot when they say, I don't want to talk about politics. I don't talk about politics. I'm like, listen, you could have said that to me in the 80s, maybe, but you no longer have the right to say, I'm not talking about it. It affects your every single day, right? And if we can get that across, then maybe they'll show up and vote. So Jersey First goals for this year are what?
So our goal is to support, you know, Paul and others that are going to Trenton to fight the fight, and to make people aware of what's happening. I mean, we are a grassroots organization, and our goal is to talk about the issues to everyone and educate everyone. And you know, one of my personal goals is, you know, I worked in the U.S. Senate. And you brought people to the table and you had conversations. And a lot of times they were really hard conversations and not everybody agreed. Yeah. But you bring people to the table and you talk about it, and you talk about common sense solutions and what will work and what won't work. And so I love the idea of what you're about to do and talk about what an assemblyman is and the craziness, because I don't think enough people realize like some of the crazy stuff that's being proposed out there and what it ultimately means. And my goal is to get people to say, hey, wait a minute, what is that? I'm not sure I agree with that, you know, because it's so important, you know, that we engage everybody in this dialogue and that we, you know, and that ultimately we get them out there to vote.
Right. That's what it's got to be. So, Paul, we're all into these videos. In fact, what TikTok, buddy? Come on. We need to get those done.
China's going to steal all our info on TikTok. I got Instagram, I got Twitter, and I got Facebook, and I think we're starting a YouTube here.
Yeah, I meant TikTok, get it done.
Like, TikTok, get it done. All right. Okay.
But we'll distribute it wherever. Listen, you know, China's stealing it. They're listening right now anyway. How you doing, China? Look out. These are some fierce people. So listen, we are on board with that, Paul. I think those are great. You bring fresh ideas. The fight is not over. We're still here, right? And as long as we're here, we're going to keep fighting. So,
and I want to bring this up. I want to bring this up as one positive thing to end on here. The New Yorker, which is as liberal and as left-wing a publication as you can get. I've been depressed for the last couple of years about just the future of the country. Right. And how liberal I feel like, and how progressive I felt like the youth is. But if you've looked at these polls in the presidential election coming up, it's been showing a massive shift for more conservative youth. And everybody needs to go out and look at this New Yorker article, because essentially it's all of them freaking out saying, oh my gosh, those polls are right. We haven't been paying attention. A lot of the youth is trending more conservative than we all think at all. And I think we might have a good future in store, but we'll have to see.
That is very good news. And it supports what you want to do, which is break down the communication in a way that people consume it today. And they consume it by reels. So we've got to get out of our old ways and into the new ways. And that bolsters your approach. And I know Rosemary's been looking at, you know, trying to do more with the youth. And that is very encouraging news. So we're going to end this on a positive note. Right? Isn't that great? Bright and shiny. Paul, congratulations on everything. So yes. Welcome to Trenton. Thank you for being there for all of us, especially in the assembly. Let's get the energy going there again. And Rosemary, thank you for fighting for all of this. It's going to be a great year, guys. It's going to be a crazy year, but we're in it. We're going to stick with it. We'll get together again and talk about some of our achievements. All right.
Thanks, guys. So grateful for both of you.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. And to my audience, guys, we'll see you back online shortly.